Hello. Hi. Hi, everyone, and welcome to WQXR's second annual Pride Show. I'm Tobin Lowe. I am the co-host of Nancy, the queer storytelling podcast. I am coming to you live from my closet studio here in Los Angeles. This is where I do all my recording for the show. I'm so happy to be here with all of you, and thank you so much for tuning in. I had the pleasure of hosting last year's show, which had so many incredible performers, and tonight is no different. Tonight's concert encompasses all the things that Pride is, excuse me. We have moments of pure fun and celebration. We have music that reflects where we've come from. And we also have artists that use their work to highlight the ever-present fight for equality. Before we jump in, I sort of want to acknowledge what an extraordinary time we're living in, because even just this week, so much has happened. I'm thinking of my friends in New York who attended the Rally for Black Trans Lives that happened on Sunday, where supposedly or reportedly 15,000 people gathered in Brooklyn, all wearing white in support of our Black trans family who need and deserve the support of our community. And in fact, later in this program, we'll have a special video from opera stars Anthony Roth Costanzo and Devon Tynes in tribute to trans lives that we have lost to violence this year. I'm also thinking about waking up Monday morning to find out that the Supreme Court had voted that yes, LGBTQ folks are protected from being discriminated against in the workplace because of who they are. It is the biggest victory for LGBTQ rights probably in most of our lifetimes. It's truly unbelievable. But, you know, as a queer community, there's still so much work to be done. Discrimination doesn't end with a ruling. Progress takes consistent and committed work that we all have to engage in. So with all that being said, I just want to reiterate that this concert has kind of anything that you need. If you're joining us tonight in a celebratory mood, if you're coming here in need of recharging, or if you just want to reflect on this moment, the performances of these artists are going to meet you where you are. They've got you covered. And I think you'll find that it's exactly what you need it to be. I want to say also a quick note, if you are joining us on Facebook or you're streaming live, wherever you're joining us, please feel free to leave me a comment just to say hi. Or I'd love to hear how you're celebrating Pride this year. You know, it's a little different, and I would love to hear how you are commemorating Pride. And I would love to shout you out as we go along. Okay, that is a lot of me talking, so we're going to get into the performances now. We're going to start with a good friend of mine, pianist Henry Kramer. Henry has been called thrilling and triumphant by the New York Times. He is a 2019 recipient of the Avery Fisher Career Grant. He also won second place at the Queen Elizabeth competition in Brussels. He's performed in some of the world's best concert halls, including Carnegie Hall and the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam. He has a bachelor's and master's degree from the Juilliard School, and a couple years ago, he earned a doctorate of musical arts from the Yale School of Music. He is currently the chair of the piano department at the Schwab School of Music at Columbus University in Columbus, Georgia. And he's going to play us two etudes from Sergei Rachmaninoff. Here's Henry. Beautiful, Henry. I love hearing you play. That was two etudes of Rachmaninoff performed by pianist and friend Henry Kramer. I'm so excited to tell you a little bit about our next guest. Mazz Swift is a multi-category performer, violinist, vocalist, freestyle composition artist. She is Juilliard trained. She's performed all over the world, including a tour of Africa as a cultural ambassador for the US Department of State. She's also worked with Carnegie Hall's Musical Connections program, conducting workshops and performances with inmates at Sing Sing, the maximum security state penitentiary. I just want to welcome Mazz Swift to our Pride celebration. Hi, Mazz.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm as well as can be expected.
That's the only answer to that question anymore. Where am I reaching you right now? Where are you?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York, in Park Slope.
Awesome. I'm going to say you are a hard person to categorize. I mentioned composer, violinist, singer. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else we can add to that list?
Conductor, actually.
Amazing.
Well. Yeah, I like to do Butch Morris's system of conduction, which is conducted improvisation. I teach it and I perform it as well.
Incredible. And in your introduction, I also mentioned that you've done work all over the place. You've performed in Africa, doing work there as a representative, and also in the US, running workshops in prisons and all sorts of places. What do you take away as a performer from sort of that whole gambit of experiences and that range of performances?
I think I would say, so much of what I do has to do with improvisation. And I think every time I do it, it kind of reinforces the fact that it's so good for me and good for the people who listen to it. And that's what I teach a lot is improvisation, even for people who don't think they know how to improvise. So that seems to be the consistent thing I take away from all of the places is that, improvisation helps me learn more about me and about the art form and is a real way it's a way of life.
Yeah.
I would nutshell it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're lucky enough that we're going to get to hear a couple performances of your work. The first one is going to be a performance featuring cellist Hannah Collins and her partner, the violinist Clara Lyon. This is a piece called Four Selections. They're going to be playing four selections from your larger work called 16 Hits or Misses for Violin and Cello, Volume 2. And this is, there's a lot of meaning behind this work, and I was hoping you would tell us a little bit about sort of what this piece touches on, what it's about.
Sure. I have a lot of cello playing besties, is what I like to say. So immediately I thought it'd be great to write some music for myself and my friends. And this particular series is for violin and improvising cellist. And it also has attached to it the idea of freedom, talking sort of throwing around all kinds of what it really means. And as it kind of went on, I realized that it really had to do specifically with the police brutality, victims of police brutality. These were written in 2015. And at that time, I was reeling from all kinds of things that have been happening in the country. And I just wanted to keep it at the front of people's minds. So, but not just about the people who died, but also the people who perpetrate it. I think we're all victims of racism. And also of a capitalist society. So you've got a piece that's a meditation on predatory affluence. There's another piece for Ayanna Jones, who was the 7-year-old child who was killed in Detroit. I wanted to keep saying her name, or a piece for George Zimmerman. So it's kind of like along that line, and it kind of all kind of ends with a meditation on loving kindness as a way to sort of see our way through all of this, which is a thing that I practice. So.
I'm wondering, especially with everything that's happening right now, in this moment we're in, what about the piece feels, well, I guess, how does the piece hit you now to hear it, especially in this context?
This is a really different experience for Black Americans as it is for white Americans. I keep kind of tongue in cheek, but actually quite seriously calling it the Great White Awakening right now. And it's so in that way, it doesn't actually feel really different. There is a feeling of sort of vindication, like this is what we've been saying all along, and no, yes, it is really that bad. And so I'm glad that it's relevant now, and also it terrifies me and disheartens me that it is still relevant. But I'm glad that more people are really actually hearing what we're saying. So.
I personally love that, the Great White Awakening. I'm gonna repeat that.
You may.
I want to say a little bit about our performers before we jump in. This is Hannah Collins and Clara Lyon. Hannah holds degrees from Yale University and the Royal Conservatory of The Hague. She worked with many ensembles, including the Knights, A Far Cry, and Dakota. And she is currently a visiting professor of cello at the University of Kansas School of Music. And she's going to be performing with violinist Clara Lyon, who has performed at the Kennedy Center, Carnegie Hall, and festivals throughout the United States and Europe. She's a former member of Ensemble ACJW, and she's currently a member of the Spectral Quartet. And as we said, they'll be playing 4 selections from your work called 16 Hits or Misses for Violin and Cello, Volume 2. Here's Hannah and Clara. Amazing. That was cellist Hannah Collins and violinist Clara Lyon with a work by my guest, Mazz Swift. Mazz, we're so lucky we're going to get to hear some more music by you. And in fact, in these next selections, do I have it correct? You're going to be playing violin and singing at the same time.
That is correct.
Is this something that you do a lot in your performance? And also, I'm curious, does it require a different kind of performance practice to develop being able to do both at the same time?
It's something that's sort of appeared in my later work in the past couple of years. And yeah, sort of like the separation, like separating your brain, of the singing from the instrument has been interesting. But it's also like just conditioning your body in a way. So that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I couldn't do it, not because of the coordination thing, but because I can't sing. So that is.
Well, there's a secret. I kind of really can't either. So.
I would beg to differ, but I want to hear a little bit about these next selections called Improv for My People and Give Up the World. Can you tell us a little bit about these pieces?
Sure. I mean, my people, Black Americans, are on my mind, and they stay on my mind. And so that's what the improvisation is for. Give Up the World is it's kind of an interesting piece of music because it's actually a slave song, and I actually found it in a book. I have the book here. It's an anthology from 1867. Somebody sort of collected songs from all different of the slave states, and so this one is called Give Up the World. And while I do it, it's kind of just a meditation on what is this person saying when they're asking you to give up the world. And I like to think of the different things that need to be given up and just what that means to do that. And I kind of joke about not being a singer because actually it's a really important part of this performance and this work that I'm doing, which is to decolonize my art form. So to really try to not do what I think is going to be acceptable, but to see if I can sing from my gut and just let it come out without any sort of refining. So that's really what this is an exercise in for me.
Amazing. Mazz, I want to thank you for making time to join us. And let's get right into it. We're going to hear Improv for My People and Give Up the World, performed by Mazz Swift.
Thank you so much.
The sun gave light in the heaven all around. The sun gave light in the heaven all around. The sun gave light in the heaven all around. Why don't you give up the world? The moon gave light, it's a starry crown. The moon gave light, it's a starry crown. The moon gave light, it's a starry crown. Why don't you give up the world? My mother, won't you my sister, my father just give up the world. We must leave this world behind. We must leave this world behind.
Amazing. That is multi-instrumentalist and composer Mazz Swift. Thank you, Mazz. This is WQXR's Pride Show. I'm Tobin Lowe. A friendly reminder, if you're watching us live, wherever you're watching us live, please send us your comments or a quick note. Tell us how you're thinking about Pride this year or celebrating. I would love to shout you out as we go along. Speaking of, I want to shout out Ron Schneider, who's saying hello from Central Louisiana on the Bayou, where they had their first public Pride all-day event just 5 years ago. Hello, Ron. Thank you for sending love. I also hear that Hannah, the cellist, Hannah Collins, wrote in to say that Mazz indeed can sing, despite what she said. So performers, go ahead and comment with your shade for each other as well, I guess, or calling each other out. I love it. Before we keep going, I just want to say again, we're so thrilled to be able to bring these shows to our audiences through the pandemic, through self-isolation. But here's the thing about what we're doing here. It costs money. The Green Space and New York Public Radio, we're a nonprofit organization that relies on support from our viewers and listeners to keep this content coming to you. So if you are in a position to donate tonight, we would be so appreciative. We've made it easier for you. You're just gonna get on your texting app or your phone. Here's mine with a giant Totoro on it. And you're gonna text the word live to 70101. We're gonna text you right back with a form where you can make a contribution. And again, on behalf of all of us here at the Green Space and WNYC, New York Public Radio, thank you for supporting all of this work. We really appreciate it. Okay, we are going to move on to our next performers actually. Sara Davis Buechner is a returning guest to our Pride Show. She built her performing career in her 20s by competing in the Van Cliburn and Tchaikovsky competitions and winning the 1984 Gina Bachauer competition. Sara has also spoken very openly about her experience coming out as a transgender woman in her mid-30s, which allowed her to live her life more honestly and openly, but also took a toll on her teaching and performing career. Fortunately, at this point in her life, Sara has a successful concert career traveling throughout the US, all 50 states and Canadian provinces, as well as 3 other continents of the world. She's also now teaching at Temple University, and she is a regular speaker and performer at LGBTQ events. Right after Sara, we are going to hear from pianist and singer John Holiday, whose voice has been called a thing of astonishing beauty by The New Yorker. John Holiday has sung on concert stages and opera houses throughout the world. He is a countertenor, actually one of 3 countertenors on this program. Amazing. And he's going to sing us a special song, which in many ways could be considered an anthem for Pride. But first, we're going to go to Sara Buechner, introducing her pieces as only Sara can.
Greetings, listeners. This is pianist Sara Davis Buechner coming to you live from Philadelphia's KSDB Radio, high atop the Drake Apartments in lovely Center City, featuring gracious living with modern comforts. We are brought to you today by Chesterfield Unfiltered Cigarettes, the choice of 9 out of 10 irresponsible doctors, and Phenamint, the delicious chewing gum laxative. Moving right along, I'll play for you today some music from radio's golden age by Dana Suisse. She was best known in her lifetime as a composer of popular songs like You Ought to Be in Pictures and Yours for a Song. The New Yorker magazine profiled her and referred to her as the girl Gershwin, when I think they had it backwards. They could have called Gershwin the boy Suisse, for in fact she was far more rigorously trained as a classical composer than Gershwin. She studied piano with Zilotti and went to Paris to study with Nadia Boulanger as well. She left us a large trove of wonderful piano pieces and 3 piano concertos. Some years ago, in a shameless plug here, I was delighted and honored to make this recording of Dana Suisse's piano music. It's called Jazz Nocturne, and that's available on the E1 label, on YouTube and probably many illegal websites, as well as underground pandemic bunkers, but we can hear some Suisse right now. I'll play for you the final 2 movements of her Cocktail Suite from 1942. Its movements are all named for famous libations of the era, and these 2 pieces are entitled Bacardi and Manhattan. And you can, of course, enjoy those as I'm playing. This one is waiting for me when the music is over. Enjoy.
Hi everyone, it's John Holiday, and I am so proud and honored to be able to share with you during this fantastic month. One of the things that I think about when I think of pride, it's this song. It's from The Wizard of Oz. Maybe you know it. Happy Pride Month. Bye.
Beautiful, amazing. That was countertenor John Holiday with a very prideful Over the Rainbow. And before that, we saw Sara Davis Buechner's performance of some songs by Dana Suisse from her Cocktail Suite. I feel like after those two performances, I want to watch Wizard of Oz and drink a cocktail. Doesn't that combination sound magical? Anyway, let's go on to our next performer. This is pianist David Fung. David's playing has been called ravishing and simply gorgeous by the Washington Post. His prizes include 2 from top 5 international piano competitions, the Queen Elizabeth and the Arthur Rubinstein Piano Competition. He's performed with many of the world's great orchestras on 4 different continents. He's originally from Australia. He studied at the Hanover Hochschule in Germany. I know I mispronounced that. And in the US, he studied at the Colburn School and Yale University. He's currently on faculty at the University of Georgia. We're going to hear him perform 3 works now, and I'm going to turn it over to David to introduce them.
Hi, I'm David Fung, and I'm so excited to be joining you for WQXR's Pride Celebration. I know that I'm not alone in saying that we've come a long way with regards to equality, but we still yet have a long way to go for equality for all. And it's in that spirit that I'd like to share 2 songs by George Gershwin. Joining me now is my partner Daniel Moody, who will be singing a beautiful song by Samuel Barber.
Hello, it is a real honor to join David for this program celebrating Pride Month. This is Samuel Barber's Sure on This Shining Night. Sure on this shining night of stormy shadows around, kindness must watch for me beside the ground.
Amazing. That was pianist David Fung and his partner Daniel Moody. We heard works by George Gershwin and Samuel Barber. I am so excited to welcome now our two last performers of the night, countertenor Anthony Roth Costanzo and bass baritone Devon Tynes. Hello. I'm going to do a little bit of your bios really quick. So you get to awkwardly sit there while I say this. Unless you have been living under a rock, you'll know that Anthony had an incredible year singing the lead role of Philip Glass's opera Akhenaten at the Met. And Devon, the Los Angeles Times calls a singer of immense power and fervor. He's performed in opera houses around the world and was highly praised for his work last summer in The Black Clown, a piece inspired by a Langston Hughes poem. Welcome to both of you. Thanks so much for joining.
Hello.
Having us.
We were talking a little bit before we jumped onto the live Zoom. Devon, you were talking about being in a concert hall again recently. So, I mean, that sort of begs the question, how has this time been for both of you as performers, sort of being away from the concert hall and that sort of thing?
Completely. I didn't realize how much I missed it until I had an opportunity to be in a concert hall for a video project that had a lot of social distancing and safety involved. But being not able to do that has led to just a lot of exploration of what is possible now with the current world and limitations. I just moved here to Raleigh, North Carolina, and I've designed this little nook in my home to be useful for Zoom calls, you know. It's not like I changed much. I initially made it that way. And it's also meant larger scale changes, like re-envisioning entire projects that are happening over the coming months so that they fit into the digital space. But something really cool about that, I think, is we've been moving there anyway. And now we have a bit more of an impetus to earnestly and deeply figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and Anthony, you were saying, I was asking you before if you've been doing a lot of like performances from home, sort of along the lines of what we're going to see. And you were saying, oh, easily 50. So I'm wondering, how is it adapting, especially with an operatic voice? You're used to like sort of projecting into the biggest spaces you can. How have you had to adjust and think about it, performing from home?
There are silver linings to everything. Technically, I try and sing the same way. It's just about finding the right setting on the mic. You know what I mean? How does it work, and how can it sound good? But it's also great because I get to listen to myself a lot more than I might normally. I'm not one of those singers who always records myself and listens obsessively back, but now I kind of have to, and I've learned a lot from that. It's great. It's a way to stay in touch, but it's also reminded me that music is communication, not only between me and a pianist, or me and a conductor, or me and my castmates, but importantly between me and an audience. I feed off their energy. It changes the sort of temperature of the air in the room and what it feels like to perform. And I miss that connection. And I think that we all come together in the ways we can to create those connections in this time. But it's been both enlightening and challenging.
Yeah. I want to say that when we invited the two of you onto the program, you wanted to record a very special version of Schubert's Ave Maria. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what this performance is about for you.
Yeah, so being in the midst of this COVID time, and especially the state of things happening in the world today, it's caused me personally to clarify and focus a lot of the work that I've been a part of and see its necessity in our current place. And that has always had to do for me with bringing stories from the periphery to the center. And my brother, who works in policy advocacy, we kind of think along the same lines, but from different perspectives. But one thing that we both agree on is that if you endeavor to help or center the person that is the most disadvantaged in any system, that you intrinsically help everyone. And within the larger queer community, trans people and trans people of color have the most intersections that separate them from white heterosexual cisgenderedness, and thus they are a lot of the times the most victimized part of our larger community. So we really wanted to take this opportunity to just offer a meditative space and some recognition and just acknowledgement of those brave lives.
And I'll just add to that, going to the incredible march, rally, protest that we had in Brooklyn, where 15,000 people showed up to in support of Black trans lives, was very moving. In the queer community, a lot of what we have, a lot of Stonewall was built with the Black queer and the Black trans community. And so they showed up for us, and I think it's really important that we show up for them now in every way we can. And so, yeah, it was also very moving to sing with Devon, to hear our voices come together. Of course, we're doing things separately. So when you hear it come together, and then as we were making this video, looking at the lives lost over only the past few months in 2020, to see these faces and look at them and then see them go away, it wound up affecting me in a way I didn't expect.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of a better way to sort of close out this evening and to close out this Pride celebration as we're thinking about sort of what Pride means this year. Before we get into it, I do want to thank all of our guests from this evening, Henry Kramer, Hannah Collins and Clara Lyon, Mazz Swift, Sara Davis Buechner, John Holliday, David Fung, and Daniel Moody, and of course, Anthony Roth Costanzo and Devon Tynes. Thank you so much for being here, both of you. And here to close us out is your beautiful version of Ave Maria.
Thank you.
peccatoribus,